Would you share a meal with me tonight? This extraordinary tale begins when a 6-year-old black girl extends a heartfelt invitation to a solitary white man for Christmas dinner. Despite her own struggles, her single mother warmly welcomes him. Their modest meal becomes a rare beacon of warmth, tragically preceding their eviction, a direct consequence of their selfless act. Days later, the man reappears not as a drifter, but as a powerful CO, resolute in his mission to right the wrong. But before we immerse ourselves in this moving narrative, tell us, where are you watching from? Your insights mean the world to us. It was Christmas Eve and a piercing New York cold seized Harlem. Snow fell relentlessly, blanketing the sidewalks and aged rooftops, softly blurring the glow of distant streetlights. Monica gripped the nylon bag containing a talking doll. Its weight felt heavy not merely from the toy itself, but from 3 months of meticulously saved pennies. Pennies meant for the persistent leak in her damp apartment, pennies intended to chip away at the looming rent for the following month. Every single one had been poured into this singular Christmas gift. A single mother in her early 30s, gaunt and visibly exhausted from 2 demanding manual labor jobs, her eyes nevertheless held a rare, determined spark. She coughed subtly, attempting to conceal a wheeze. Zahara, a 6-year-old with neatly styled braids, huddled close behind her mother, her cheeks flushed crimson from the biting cold. She clutched the doll tightly, her brown eyes sparkling with pure, childlike delight. Suddenly, her gaze fixed upon a lone figure across from the store. A man approximately 60 years old, his thinning gray hair barely covered by a worn wool cap, shivered on a nearby park bench. His threadbare winter coat offered little protection against the frigid air for his emaciated frame. His hands trembled, clutching a crumpled, thoroughly soaked paper card. Beneath the flickering street light, the smudged, illegible handwriting on the card was obscured by dampness, or perhaps by tears. He made no effort to hide his anguish. Only his frail shoulders subtly shook as he struggled to suppress a quiet sob. Zahara gently released her mother's hand, taking hesitant, small steps forward. The bitter air stung her face, yet she seemed not to notice. She paused a short distance from the man, her voice as soft and delicate as the night dew. "Mr." The man startled, lifting his gaunt face. He quickly wiped away the persistent tears from his eyes. "It's all right, child." His voice was rough with emotion. I miss my daughter. Do you have anyone to eat dinner with tonight?" Zahara inquired, her eyes clear and utterly devoid of suspicion. "Our house doesn't have turkey, but my mom makes really good tarts." The man's deep blue eyes, already dulled by sorrow, flickered with a faint spark. The child's heartfelt invitation genuinely stunned him. A faint, fragile smile touched his parched lips. Monica had just completed her purchase and stepped out of the store. Seeing her daughter conversing with a stranger, her heart seized with immediate concern. Caution, a primal instinct for any single mother safeguarding her child, flared instantly. "Zahara," she called out, rushing to her daughter's side. "I invited him to have dinner with us, Mom," Zahara whispered, taking her mother's cold hand. Monica observed the man. He appeared frail, haggard, his eyes devoid of malice, reflecting only the profound emptiness of someone who had lost everything. It echoed her own solitary nights. She knew she ought to decline, but Zahara's innocent compassion and the man's evident despair made her waver. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the man's voice was low. "I didn't intend to disturb you. Just resting here for a moment." Monica drew a deep, cold breath. She spoke softly. "If you have nowhere else to go tonight, you are welcome to join us." Zahara's face illuminated with joy. She took the man's cold hand, her small fingers encompassing his rough ones. The 3 figures quietly departed the park, leaving behind faint footprints on the wet pavement beneath the softly falling snow. The ancient wooden stairs in the rickety apartment building groaned under Monica's weary steps and the man's slow gait. A dim electric light spilled from the 3rd-floor apartment. As Monica unlatched the door, the scent of dampness and cold air enveloped them. The relentless drip-drip of water from the broken kitchen faucet was a familiar sound, a haunting rhythm to their sleep. There was no shimmering Christmas tree, no joyful carols, just a cramped space with flaking walls, where an old electric heater offered only a faint, struggling warmth. Zahara swiftly removed her thick coat, hanging it on a rusty hook behind the door. She was accustomed to the scarcity here, always striving to do her part. Charles the man stood silently in the room. His gaze slowly traversed the meager furnishings. The unsteady wooden table, a few aged plastic chairs, a worn rug scarred with cigarette burns. On a peeling wall, a photograph of Monica and Zahara smiling brightly in front of a hospital entrance provided a soul-warm beacon. "You're home. It feels warm," Charles murmured, his voice catching slightly. Monica turned to her daughter, gently prompting, "Zahara, please wash your hands and get the bowls for Mommy." Their Christmas dinner was simple. 2 packets of instant noodles, quickly prepared with a few slices of inexpensive sausage, and a tiny piece of tart Zahara had thoughtfully saved for Charles. Monica placed the final sausage slice onto Charles's plate, saying softly, "We don't have much, sir." "This simplicity," Charles replied, his voice deep and comforting, "makes me feel special." Zahara pushed the plate of tart toward him, her eyes sparkling. "You eat it, mister. My mom's tart is really good. You have to tell the truth." Charles smiled faintly, a rare, softening expression that eased the weariness from his face. Monica observed that smile, a gentle stirring in her heart. During dinner, Zahara chattered animatedly about her modest dreams, about the talking doll she had so wished for. Monica quietly observed Charles. He ate slowly with polite deliberation, his hands occasionally clenching as if clinging to a distant memory. "Do you have family nearby, sir?" Monica finally asked, breaking the silence. "I used to have a family," Charles responded, his gaze distant, tinged with profound sadness. Monica nodded, refraining from further questions. She understood the agony of loss, the desolate loneliness that filled Charles's eyes. She had experienced such long nights herself. When Zahara rubbed her eyes, yawned, and drifted off to sleep on her mother's shoulder, Charles remarked softly, "Your little girl, she's lovely." Monica gently stroked her daughter's hair, her voice tender. "She's my everything." Outside the thin window, the wind still howled in furious gusts. Monica's dry cough echoed in the quiet room, her chest aching as if a vice gripped it. She knew that if circumstances persisted this way, she wouldn't endure. Charles slowly rose, retrieving the crumpled paper card from his worn coat pocket. This time he unfolded it for Monica to see the childlike, scrawled handwriting. "Merry Christmas, Dad. Even though I'm not coming home, I still love you, Ellie." His voice choked, his eyes reddened. "This is the card my daughter sent 3 years ago. Since then, every Christmas Eve I've been alone. I'm so sorry for inconveniencing you and your child." Monica gently shook her head, her gaze sincere. "It's all right, sir." Charles looked at Monica, his eyes brimming with gratitude and regret. "I want to do something to thank you for your kindness. Please, anything at all." Monica offered a sad smile, shaking her head decisively. "We don't need anything, sir. A warm dinner was more than enough." Charles regarded Monica for a long moment, as if attempting to fathom her heart. Then he bowed his head slightly, a single tear tracing a path down his gaunt cheek. "Thank you. Thank you for showing me there are still good things in this world." He gently stroked Zahara's sleeping head, then looked at Monica one last time. His silhouette vanished behind the creaky door, leaving a faint warmth and the steady breathing of mother and child in the small room. The morning after Christmas, Harlem remained blanketed in pristine white snow. Monica and Zahara awoke in their frigid apartment. The electricity had been cut off since the previous night. Monica attempted to reignite a small flame in the old electric heater, but it merely flickered weakly before expiring. The pervasive scent of dampness and the subtle chill from the walls permeated the air, causing Monica to cough dryly, her chest aching. Zahara sat on the small mattress, clutching the talking doll, her tiny face etched with timidity. "Mommy, it's so cold." Monica embraced Zahara, holding her tightly. She could feel every chilling draft from the thin wall, the wind whistling through the cracked window. The air was thick with a palpable sense of helplessness. Christmas melodies still echoed faintly from somewhere far off through the tightly sealed window, yet they only served to make the apartment feel more desolate and cold. A loud, brutal knocking pounded on the door, reverberating through the old hallway. Monica flinched. She tiptoed to open it. Rick, the landlord and owner of Rick's Grill, a man around 50, stood there. He was covered in snow like a walking iceberg, his face cold and devoid of expression. In his hand he held a stark white sheet of paper. Rick spoke, his voice disdainful, edged with anger. Monica, I thought you'd at least show up for work. Monica suppressed a cough, her voice raspy. Yes, I was on time, but it was a snowstorm this morning. The roads were blocked. Rick cut her off, flinging the paper into Monica's face. Don't bother coming in anymore, and you don't need to live here either. Monica bent down to retrieve the paper. Her eyes widened, trembling as she saw the bold black letters. Notice of eviction. The words 24 hours stood out like a death sentence. What is this? Monica stammered, her voice losing its composure. I've been doing well. I haven't violated anything. Rick took a step inside, his eyes scanning the dilapidated apartment, glancing at Zahara who was hiding behind Monica, his gaze filled with contempt. You haven't violated anything? You dared to harbor a vagrant in my property on Christmas Eve. Other tenants complained. You know I've been annoyed with you about the rent payments already. Both you and your daughter have to leave before I call the police. Monica staggered back, clutching the crumpled paper. Her throat constricted. The air seemed to thicken around her. He was just passing through. He had nowhere to go that night. My daughter. She invited him. Rick scoffed, his eyes as cold as ice. Your daughter has no right to bring trouble here. I have to ensure the safety of other tenants. I don't like having to answer for you. This is my territory, not a charity house. He knew a difficult neighbor had called him early that morning. Monica bit her lip, her eyes welling up. She looked at Zahara, her small face filled with fear, the prospect of being evicted onto the street in a snowstorm. No job. You're doing this on Christmas morning? Monica whispered, her voice breaking. Where will we go? She's too young. Rick turned his back, indifferent as if he hadn't heard. That's not my problem. You have 24 hours. He slammed the door shut, the bang echoing like thunder in the cold apartment. Monica collapsed to the floor, tears streaming down her face. The eviction notice felt like a death sentence, strangling the future of mother and daughter. Zahara stirred, whimpering softly in her sleep. Monica quickly wiped her tears, took a deep breath and pulled Zahara into her arms. She could feel every chilling draft from the thin wall, the wind whistling through the cracked window. In her mind there was only one overwhelming fear. If they didn't have stable housing, Zahara could be taken away by social services. She had heard horror stories about that in Harlem. That afternoon, Monica sat on the wooden stairs leading to their small apartment, holding Zahara. The little girl whimpered, her eyes sad. Is it my fault, Mom? Because I invited Mr. Charles over. Monica shook her head, pressing her cheek against her daughter's curly hair. Her voice was gentle but firm. No, my love. It's not your fault. It's because their own goodness makes them feel ashamed. A north wind blew through, carrying crumpled scraps of Christmas paper. But in Monica's heart, something was stirring. Not fear but a strange calm. She didn't need to be ashamed of being kind. She just needed to be strong. Zahara sat on the cold floor, holding her talking doll, trying to pull a tiny piece of fabric over its shoulder as if tucking her friend in. Monica was futilely cleaning the apartment, but the air still smelled of dampness and cold. The steady drip of water from the leaky kitchen pipe was the only sound breaking the silence. Monica placed a bucket under the faucet, then sighed. She had called the landlord a dozen times but no one had come to fix it. Zahara's lunch was a quickly prepared packet of instant noodles with a few slices of nearly expired sausage. Monica only drank a glass of plain water, trying to keep a calm expression so her child wouldn't worry. She coughed dryly in fits, the cough tearing at her throat. That night Monica tried to sleep but couldn't. She coughed continuously, her chest aching. The scurrying of mice on the ceiling, the wind whistling through the cracked window sounded like ghostly calls. She shivered, trying to pull the thin blanket higher, but the cold still seeped in. Tomorrow morning she would have to find a new job. Under leafless trees, the snow had partially melted, forming muddy puddles. Monica hurried through the streets of Harlem. She passed old brick buildings. Some stores boarded up, their windows shattered. A few homeless people huddled in their thin blankets under the awning of an abandoned building. The smell of garbage mingled with the damp, cold air. She witnessed a social worker taking a child away from a sobbing mother. Monica shivered, her greatest fear rising again. Monica entered a small convenience store. The elderly Asian woman behind the counter looked at her with sympathy. Heard Rick fired you, huh? What a Christmas bastard. Monica forced a smile, her voice tired. Yes, ma'am. Now I have to find another job. The owner shook her head, her eyes sad. It's tough, dear. Not many extra jobs left around here. And you? She looked at Zahara clinging to Monica. Have a young child. Monica nodded. She knew this was the look she often faced. A look of pity mixed with judgment. Single mother, black, living in Harlem. The label society had placed on her, making her opportunities even more fragile. Monica visited a few other diners to ask for work, but all she received were cold rejections. The first owner looked her up and down, her eyes assessing, "We need someone for late-night shifts. How can you do that with a young child?" The second owner was indifferent, not even looking her in the eye. "This position requires stability. Your resume isn't quite a fit." Monica returned home, her heart heavy. The fear for her daughter's future weighed heavily on her. She hugged Zahara, holding her tight. Her daughter's radiant smile was a reminder that she couldn't give up. A few days after Christmas, Charles found himself in a modest hotel room. The snow had lessened, but the air was still brisk. Familiar Christmas songs still echoed from nearby houses, but now they only deepened his torment. Charles sat quietly on the single bed. His eyes stared blankly out the foggy window. The room was empty, yet he didn't feel as lonely as in previous nights, because in his mind Monica and Zahara's images were vivid. He took out Ellie's card, gently caressing the words, "Even though I'm not coming home, I still love you." His eyes were still sad, but there was a subtle shift, no longer complete despair but profound remorse. He remembered Ellie's dream, to become a community nurse, helping those in need, especially single mothers who had to abandon their education due to circumstances. That dream had been buried with his grief. "I gave up everything, even Ellie's dream. I ran away, wallowing in my pain. And yet, a woman with nothing was willing to share everything. She said kindness shouldn't be traded, but I can't just accept it. What would Ellie think if she saw me abandon them, leaving them to struggle in the cold and hardship? My girl, she would never do that." Charles got up abruptly. He took his satellite phone from his worn coat pocket, a phone he had kept though unused for years. He opened his contacts, looking for the number of an old associate he believed might have information about the landlord Rick in Harlem. He wanted to go back to visit Monica and Zahara to make sure they were okay. A few days later, Charles returned to the familiar Harlem street. The snow had melted into puddles, but the cold still bit. He walked up the old creaking stairs, his heart pounding. He wanted to knock on the door to say thank you once more, to make sure the mother and daughter were all right. Charles stood before Monica's apartment. The door was wide open. Not because Monica had left it that way, but because it had been forced. Inside, the apartment was empty. The small plastic Christmas tree was gone. The worn chair, the old rug were also missing. Only stains on the walls, a few scraps of trash, and an eerie silence remained. He looked around, trying to find any sign. The dripping sound from the kitchen faucet was still there, but no bucket to catch the water. The old neighbor, Miss Chin, an elderly Asian woman, stepped out of the apartment opposite, carrying a laundry basket. She saw Charles and stopped. Miss Chin looked at him with a sad expression. "Are you looking for someone? Monica and little Zahara? They're gone. Kicked out a few days ago." Charles froze, his whole body stiffened. "Kicked out? Why?" he asked, his voice trembling, disbelieving. Miss Chin shook her head, her eyes full of sympathy. "That Rick, the landlord, he said Monica owed 2 months' rent and harbored a stranger on Christmas Eve. He used that as an excuse to kick them out the very next morning in a snowstorm. Poor things. Now no one knows where they are." Miss Chen's words were like a knife stabbing into Charles's heart. The very morning after Christmas, when he was still consumed by his own remorse. He had been too late. Regrets surged, overwhelming him. He had been too selfish, too absorbed in his own pain to realize that Monica's kindness had put her in a dangerous situation. "I was too slow. I let them suffer this. Ellie, she would never forgive me if I abandoned them." He turned away, his face pale. The pain of losing Ellie, the emptiness of a life without purpose, now mingled with a terrible sense of guilt. He had missed the chance to return kindness in time. He took out his satellite phone. Charles's eyes now held not despair, but a burning fire of determination. He put the phone to his ear, his voice firm and powerful. completely unlike his weary tone moments before. Connect me to my assistant. I need to mobilize all resources to find someone. Her name is Monica Davis and her daughter Zahara. He would not let them suffer anymore. He would find Monica and Zahara and he would make amends for his mistake. After days of frantic searching, the Sterling Foundation deployed a team of private investigators to locate Monica and Zahara, utilizing information from Miss Chin and connections within Harlem. A few days later, Monica and Zahara were still out on the streets, huddled in a park. The snow had melted into puddles, but the air still carried dampness and a biting cold. They shielded themselves with a thin, old blanket. 4 days they had sought refuge in train stations and abandoned bus stop, and now only the cold pavement remained. Zahara was asleep in Monica's arms, hugging her talking doll. Monica looked out, her gaze unfocused. She coughed in fits, feeling utterly exhausted. She had called dozens of places but no glimmer of hope had emerged. The overwhelming fear for her daughter's future weighed heavily on her as she found it almost impossible to secure new shelter or work. She clutched Zahara's hand, feeling her child's small, fragile presence in the cold. Her gaze fell on Zahara's sleeping face. Her daughter's radiant smile, a reminder that she couldn't give up. But hope was fading. Just then a sleek black Mercedes pulled up sharply in front of them. Monica startled. A man stepped out of the back seat. It was Charles. Lacking the full context of his power and connection, Monica only knew him as the man from the park. He was dressed neatly but his face held a tense, apologetic expression. Monica's eyes widened. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Charles hurried forward, his voice urgent, full of apology. "Monica, I finally found you. I'm so sorry. I'm truly sorry I didn't come back sooner. I didn't know Rick had done that to you. I've been looking for you everywhere." Monica was still stunned, trying to comprehend what was happening. Charles looked deeply into Monica's eyes. His voice low, weighty. "You asked who I am. I am Charles Whitmore Sterling. I am the founder of the Sterling Foundation and I run Sterling Holdings." Monica gasped, speechless. Her whole body felt like it might collapse. Zahara stirred, squinted at Charles, then nestled back into her mother's arms. Charles continued, his voice still sincere but with a hint of authority. "First, please accept a temporary safe apartment and urgent financial assistance so you and Zahara can get settled. After that, Monica Davis, I'm calling from the Sterling Foundation office. You have been directly nominated for a full scholarship to the community nursing program, a program my daughter dreamed of before she passed. This is a new opportunity, a new beginning. Please accept. This is all I can do to atone for my mistake." Monica's hands trembled as she took the envelope. She opened it, seeing papers with the Sterling Foundation logo and a clear interview invitation letter. Tears streamed down her face. She looked up at Charles, her eyes filled with both astonishment and immense gratitude. You're really..." Monica choked out. Charles looked at Monica with sincere eyes, taking out a photo of Ellie from his wallet. "Because Zahara gave me an invaluable gift on Christmas Eve. And you refused to accept repayment from me. Now I'm not just repaying your kindness, but also fulfilling my daughter's dream, Ellie. He always dreamed of helping people like you. I was too consumed by sorrow to remember. Not anymore. I won't let anyone else suffer because of their kindness." Monica hugged Zahara, tears still falling. This wasn't just an opportunity, but salvation, a miracle amidst a turbulent life. Charles had arrived not as a homeless man, but as a father carrying a legacy and a repentant heart, seeking redemption by helping others. After a brief period of settling into their temporary apartment, Monica and Zahara moved into a new, much warmer and brighter apartment than their old place in Harlem. The dripping water sound was gone, replaced by Zahara's giggles as she played with her doll. Monica began her studies in the community nursing program. The full scholarship covered tuition and a fixed portion of living expenses, but money for food, utilities, personal items, and unexpected expenses for Zahara remained a significant burden. Monica still had to study day and night to catch up on knowledge lost after many years of interruption. The academic pressure was immense, especially as she had to balance homework with caring for Zahara. She often stayed up late, her eyes dark with fatigue. Having a home, having an opportunity doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It just means I have a stronger foundation to fight from. Monica sat in class trying to focus on the lecture. She took constant notes, but sometimes her eyes drooped from lack of sleep. She looked up at the board, her gaze determined. She couldn't give up. One day Zahara fell ill. Monica had to miss class to take her to the clinic. She sat in the crowded waiting room, Zahara coughing continuously in her arms. Monica checked her watch, knowing she was missing an important class that could affect her final grades. Monica's own chronic cough, which had lingered since Christmas Eve, also flared up worse. Taxi fares, medication for both of them. These expenses, though small, were still a big burden. The nurse called out, "Zahara Davis." Monica carried Zahara into the examination room. The doctor prescribed medication, advising Monica to get more rest and to have her own lungs thoroughly checked. Monica nodded but knew she couldn't rest. That evening Monica put Zahara to bed. Her daughter was fast asleep. Monica sat up holding her head. She felt exhausted, her cough returned, each dry hack tearing at her chest. Homework piled up on the table. She looked at her textbook but the words blurred. Many nights I wondered if I could do it, if I had enough strength to study, be a mother and take care of myself. What if I failed again? Zahara needs me. In the Sterling Foundation office, Charles was reviewing reports. He received an email from a nursing school professor reporting on Monica. Monica Davis is an exceptional student with extraordinary resilience. However, we've noticed she is struggling with financial pressure and health. She coughs frequently and shows signs of severe sleep deprivation. We are concerned about her ability to continue the program at such an intense pace. Charles frowned. He remembered Monica's gauntness, her dark-ringed eyes on Christmas Eve. He immediately picked up the phone. "Please contact me immediately regarding Monica Davis's situation. Arrange a comprehensive checkup for her at our clinic as soon as possible and find solutions to alleviate her burden. This isn't a race, it's a journey." Monica understood that while the scholarship from the Sterling Foundation opened doors, her path to success was her own to carve. She fiercely dedicated herself to her studies, determined to overcome the discrimination she had faced and prove her worth, not through charity but through her own talent and hard work. She knew this was her chance to build a better life for Zahara. Slowly but surely Monica's efforts began to pay off. She excelled in her classes, often surprising professors with her sharp insights and unwavering commitment despite her challenging circumstances. She learned to prioritize, finding moments to study during Zahara's naps and after she went to bed, fueled by sheer willpower. Her chronic cough, which had lingered since Christmas Eve, was now being addressed with regular checkups at a community clinic recommended by Charles's foundation. And by diligently following medical advice, Monica's health slowly improved. The foundation also connected her with affordable, flexible childcare options, allowing her a few precious hours to focus solely on her studies or to simply rest. 4 years later, Monica stood on a brightly lit stage. She was no longer the gaunt, weary woman from Harlem. Her posture was confident, her eyes shining with fierce intelligence and a quiet strength. She had not only graduated at the top of her class from the community nursing program, but had also been instrumental in developing a groundbreaking new outreach program for underserved mothers and children in urban communities. This program, born from her own experiences and deep understanding of systemic inequalities, focused on holistic support, providing medical care, nutrition education and mental health resources directly within neighborhoods. It was innovative, highly effective, and quickly gained recognition across the city. The New York Times had featured her story, not as a recipient of a scholarship, but as a leading voice in community health reform. The article highlighted her perseverance, her brilliance, and her ability to transform personal hardship into a powerful catalyst for change. It was a story of triumph over adversity, a testament to her inherent talent and unwavering spirit. This public recognition solidified her status as a formidable advocate and a brilliant professional, proving her worth beyond any doubt. The article also implicitly drew attention to the inequalities she and others like her faced, leading to increased scrutiny and calls for accountability for figures like Rick, who quietly faded into obscurity. Monica had not asked Charles for more help after the initial scholarship, choosing to stand on her own 2 feet. He respected that. He observed her progress from afar, occasionally receiving updates from the foundation. He knew her journey was her own and he admired her strength. Time passed quickly and New York welcomed another winter. Monica's small apartment was much warmer now, not just because of the new heater, but because of the consistent presence of someone who had become like family. Charles was no longer a stranger who had merely offered aid. He was a trusted friend, a kind mentor, and a beloved figure in their lives. More than a year after receiving the scholarship and starting her program, Monica was thriving. She had recently begun her practical training as a nurse at a community hospital, a place where she could directly help people, embodying the very spirit of the nursing program. She came home one chilly winter afternoon to find Charles playing with Zahara by the dining table. On the table was a freshly baked tart, fragrant and warm. Zahara cheered when she saw her mom. "Mommy, Mr. Charles made a tart for me." Monica looked at Charles, her eyes filled with deep affection and gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. Charles smiled gently. "It's nothing. I just wanted for us to have a warm dinner." The three sat at the table enjoying the delicious tart in the cozy atmosphere. Zahara chattered about school. Monica shared stories about her patients at the hospital. Charles listened quietly, occasionally smiling. He didn't offer advice or direct assistance for her daily struggles anymore. He simply offered companionship and warmth. After dinner, Zahara rubbed her eyes, ready for sleep. Monica gently put her to bed. Charles remained at the table, looking at Monica with tenderness. "Monica," he said softly. "You and Zahara, you've given me a family. I found so much joy in being with you both." Monica looked up at Charles, her eyes welling up. All the years of struggle, all the loneliness seemed to dissipate in this moment of shared warmth. She smiled, a genuine, strong smile that reflected her journey. She didn't need Charles to take care of her in a grand way anymore. She was capable and strong on her own. But his presence, his quiet love, was a precious gift. She knew the road ahead still held its challenges, but she no longer felt alone. She had built her own strong foundation, and now she also had a beautiful chosen family. That winter, snow still fell lightly outside the window. But in the warm, small room, three hearts had found a profound connection, warming each other with sincere affection. The miracle of that Christmas Eve was not a magical intervention, but a tiny seed of kindness that had blossomed into Monica's fierce self-reliance and the quiet, comforting bond of a new, unexpected family. By the window, the streetlights quietly shone, bearing witness to an ordinary story brimming with human spirit. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.